Is this the darkest album that Björn and Benny have ever made? This is the first pop album they created following the end of ABBA, and just after they worked on their first musical Chess. And it is, as always, such a natural progression in their artistry. If you take a close look at the artwork, it says, "All so far from what is now, strangers somehow." A line from the final song of the album, Another You, Another Me. This is Gemini from 1985. We are celebrating 40 years of this album, and today we dive into the album, its melancholia, bleakness, and beauty. Hey. So, in 1985, Björn and Benny wrote and produced Gemini. By that time, Agneta had released her second English-language solo album, Eyes of a Woman. Frida had released Shine in 1984 and stopped pursuing her solo career for the time being. So where is Gemini coming from, and all the darkness within? Björn and Benny finished work on the concept album for their first musical Chess, and what they were left with was a wealth of material of songs. At the time, Benny said, "We have several songs from the period when we've been working with Chess that we know there is no room for. Those songs have been pretty fun to work with anyway. There is actually quite a lot of such material, at least 20 to 25 minutes of music. They are good songs, but they don't fit into Chess." Björn and Benny were eager to record and release a new pop album, and it just so happens that their work for the concept album of Chess brought them together with two singers, Karin and Anders Glenmark, who turned out to become Björn and Benny's brand new project.
Yes, we met them during the recording of the album of Chess. And they are very talented and very easy to work with, very humble in their attitude to their work.
On Chess, the concept album, Karin and Anders Glenmark became a very important part of the soundscape. They performed all backing vocals, and on top of that, Anders Glenmark is prominently featured singing the chorus of the worldwide hit single One Night in Bangkok. It was a natural progression that Björn and Benny were eager to record with them again, and we have to dive into this album track by track. Gemini features 9 songs. The majority of the album was written by Björn and Benny, with 3 exceptions. Gemini also features many players from ABBA's regular studio band, drums by Per Lindvall, guitar by Lasse Welander, and bass by Rutger Gunnarsson. Benny plays all keyboards and synthesizers. The album was produced by Björn and Benny together with Anders Glenmark. 2 songs were engineered by ABBA's sound engineer Michael B. Tretow. The overall sound and atmosphere of this album, in my opinion, is bleak, hopeless, very moody and dark, very melancholic. This is prominent in the very slow and minimalist soundscape, very much defined by Benny's synthesizers, but also in the lyrics written by Björn. So what I will also do is read some of the lines from each song that I think really captures the desolation of the album's atmosphere and Björn's terrific writing as a lyricist. The opening song is Slowly, and I feel my love die slowly. This song has so much importance and history already. 1 year before, it was given by Björn and Benny to Frida for her solo album Shine. That turned out to be the only time ever that one of the ladies recorded a new song by Björn and Benny after their time with ABBA. But Slowly actually started live in 1983 as a demo for Chess. When Frida recorded the song, it was produced by Steve Lillywhite. So for Gemini, Björn and Benny took the song back and really made it their own. This is one of the most minimalist sounding productions on the album, really bleak and hopeless. Our passion's just a distant memory, and in its place, a dull frustration, a cold indifference where there used to be at least a frequent irritation, but a feeling still of tenderness and of pity. But it won't feel right, 'cause something's wrong. Björn really wrote some lyrics for this album. The second song is Too Much Love Is Wasted. So I lost one lover and I don't intend to lose another. This is one of my favorites. A really catchy chorus that goes on with the climbing melody lines. So much Benny Andersson in this composition. This is one of the more up-tempo ones, but still so melancholic. When the passion's fading out, you start to doubt, you lose the sight of what it's really about. The third song, Slow Emotion, is definitely the most energetic track on the album. This became the final single from Gemini, released as an extended remix. On the Swedish album release of Gemini, Slow Emotion is featured as another alternate mix. How can you follow up such an energetic song by contrasting it with the complete opposite? The next track is just like that. And this is one of the darkest, most melancholic moments on the album. I've always loved this version of the song. There is so much atmosphere to this recording. Just Like That was recorded in 1982 by ABBA and is the only song of their final 6 recordings never released in its entirety, because Benny Andersson is just not satisfied with ABBA's version. For Gemini, they wrote a new verse melody and some other changes in the melodies. Carl Magnus Palm describes this version as slower, heavier, and more melancholy. Here's one of my favorite lines. Somehow I have returned to the land of the living, but badly burned. You see how Björn's lyrics continually deal with pictures of pure desolation, of loss, coldness, fading love and life. My love dies slowly, lost one lover, a dull frustration, a cold indifference. The state of mind of the protagonist of these songs is fragile, scarred by heartache and loss, and just barely trying to survive. Somehow I have returned to the land of the living, but badly burned. The final song on side A was written by Anders Glenmark and Ingela Forsman. She was the co-writer of Agneta's song The Queen of Hearts and the Swedish version of that song. Falling also became a single B-side in Europe. Side B of the album opens with one of the finest hours of Björn and Benny as songwriters. The song is called Have Mercy. This one is so melancholic, so slow, dramatic. I could go on to quote every line of this song. There's a sense of loss and sorrow mixed with helpless fright, and the gloom of twilight overtook the light of day. Have mercy, mercy on everyone. Wow, Björn Ulvaeus, these are some of your finest lyrics. Gemini from 1985. The next song, Live on the Love, was written by Anders Glenmark with Björn Ulvaeus. This is followed by In the Middle of Nowhere, again written by Anders Glenmark and Ingela Forsman. And this is my personal favorite of the 3 tracks not written by Björn and Benny. A very catchy chorus. I really love the second part of the chorus. The final song on the album is Another You, Another Me. The song, like the opening of side B, Have Mercy, was engineered by Michael Bidretov. And that's not the only connection to ABBA. Have Mercy and Another You, Another Me are some of the songs that were already worked on during those prolific sessions for the chess musical. But most intriguingly, Another You, Another Me, this one may even go back a little further to those final sessions with none other than ABBA. This is from Carl Magnus Palm's book ABBA, The Complete Recording Sessions. Lennart Östlund, who engineered Gemini and who was the house engineer of Polar Studio, recalls to have heard an early version of Another You, Another Me with vocals from either Frida or Agneta, recorded at some point in 1982. Apparently it was played on a cassette tape with a demo, which means, according to Carl Magnus Palm, that it's unlikely that a proper ABBA studio recording of the song exists, as there are no traces of any such tapes in the archives. Another You, Another Me does sound the most like an ABBA song on Gemini, but it ended up as the closing song for this album. In the UK and Germany, this song was released as a 12-inch single, with one of the B-sides being the non-album song Copy Love, written by Björn and Benny. This is another one of my favorite tracks, really cool tune, slow verses, building up to a fast-driven chorus. When some of the songs from the album were re-released in 2005, Copy Love was also chosen, but it was actually remixed by Benny, deleting some of the lyrics and overdubbing new synthesizer melodies. Gemini also re-recorded 2 songs in 2005, a Swedish version of Too Much Love Is Wasted and a re-recording of the album outtake When I Close My Eyes, which was also one of the many outtakes for Chess. You can really see and trace back the evolution and artistic progression of Björn and Benny as songwriters, and how it eventually became Gemini, how they came together for this really unique album. An album full of darkness, bleak moods, filled with treasures of compositions, drenched in lyrical depictions of desolation, soundscapes of minimalist melancholia, and for all of that, pure beauty. Let me quote what I quoted in the beginning, the line that is quoted on the album's artwork, taken from the final song. All so far from what is now, strangers somehow. This is 40 years later, and I hope this album will be rediscovered by many people. The music and lyrics, Björn and Benny's production, it's sublime. And I would like to know, what do you think of the album? What do you think of Gemini from 1985? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, until then, hey do!